and both frustrated by the fact that she is often sticking to the phrase, quote, "I honestly do not remember," when asked to recall any of the details from that night. But Harris did say she felt a lot of pressure, saying multiple times, "I did not shoot Meg."
There's one reason why eyewitness testimony is being thrown out more and more in the courtroom, because our memories aren't reliable. Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Nick Davenport, aka Mr. Mental Muscle. Now, welcome back to the Mental Breakdown channel. Now, I've been seeing a lot being posted about this Meg Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez case. Now, it's been a heated debate I've seen between men and women. People think he's wrong. People think she's wrong. She's a liar, whatever it may be. And I said, as usual, there's definitely something we can teach here using psychology and science. So with that being said, let's get into it. Now, this case has been compared to the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial. So it's similar in the sense that two former lovers are going head to head in the courtroom. Now, what I first took away from this is the bipartisan take on who's right and who's wrong. So it made me think, why are people so quick to take sides? Now, we can probably answer this simply because people like to relate. Meg Thee Stallion has built up a big fan base in the last 3 to 4 years, and there's a lot of women who identify with her or see her as a symbol to lead women and freedom and all that stuff. And I'm not getting into what that actually is. You can take your own take on that. But the point is, we identify with those similar to us who have similar views as us. So it makes it easy to see why a lot of women want to align with Meg Thee Stallion. Now, on the Tory Lanez side, I don't see as much people pulling for him. Now, you can make this kind of a boy versus girl thing, but at the end of the day, it's all about who do you identify with. But that presses even more of a question. Why do we care so much about celebrities in general? Because in this case, a lot of people are saying how I'm with you, Megan. I hope you're okay. And it's like, you don't really know these people. But this is nothing new. Throughout human history, we've always looked up to people of higher status, kings, queens, royalty. And this actually is an evolutionary trait, because when you think about it, let's go back in time, because right now we got the convenience of internet, technology, electricity, whatever it is, it makes life pretty easy. But if you go back far enough, let's go back a few thousand years. Survival was very unlikely, and the most likeliness of dying was either disease or being killed. So being alone was not a good thing. So we formed these relationships and we looked up to people of bigger stats, because why? They probably were better leaders and had more resources. Therefore, they can take care of us or help us survive. Now, over the years, like I said, with modern conveniences, this got easier. So we can argue, oh, I'm independent, I don't need anyone. In a general sense, yes, you're right, because as long as you got working electricity and running clean water, you should be okay. Now, the thing is, we look to the current day celebrities the same way those ancient people did, because we formulate these relationships from a one-sided point of view. That's why it's called parasocial. Think of the term para like Paralympics or paramilitary. This is adjacent to the actual Olympics or the actual military. So the same thing with relationships. We usually have it between two people or more, and we understand that I'm your friend or I'm your lover or I'm your brother, whatever it may be. But with these parasocial relationships, it's you identifying with the other people. Now, the problem with this is it kind of formulates an escape for people to get away from reality. And this is not necessarily a bad thing. But the problem could be is we formulate these scenarios in our heads and only paint it one-sided. So we might look up the Meg Thee Stallion or Kim Kardashian or an NFL player, but we don't know truly who they are, what they are, and they definitely can't give it back to us. So it is a getaway to feel better and identify with them, but it doesn't really give us a true connection. But on the other side of that, it can help us get through a tough time because we can relate to their scenario, or we see somewhere we want to be. And idealistically, we can become those people we admire. So it's not a bad thing to have parasocial relationships. We can just argue that sometimes we go too far in this modern day age where we have 24/7 access on social media and TV and other news sources that we always see these people and we really think that we know them. Now, this doesn't just only extend to the Meg Thee Stallion case. We see a lot in sports. Think about the guys, they lose their day and they're all emotional and depressed over their team losing. They form these identities. A lot of guys never made it to the high level of sports, let alone pro. And they see this as an opportunity to identify with these players because, hey, I could have been him, or hey, he makes me feel better about things I didn't get to do. So it all comes back to the same thing. But let's segue to biases. We know on this channel, we talk about biases a lot. Now, there's two obvious ones I talk about all the time, which is the bandwagon effect and confirmation bias. So these two are obvious. So the bandwagon effect is going where people tend to follow. So you jump on it, like say, jump on the bandwagon because everyone's saying, hey, I'm with her. She's the one I want to win this case. And it becomes combative. So that's simple. And confirmation bias is typically when you hear new information, but regardless, you're going to stick to what you already know, or you're going to just look for the things that agree with your side. So you can't really even take in new information. But two new biases I haven't really talked about on this channel is anchoring and hindsight bias. So anchoring is basically when you take the first piece of information, and since you hear that, you just run with it because now you know this is what I know, and anything after that, I can't really put it on a higher pedestal. It's like when someone says, I'll sell you a car, let's say for $3,000. Once you get that price, if they come back to you next week and say, you know what, I want to sell it to you for $10,000. You're probably not going to want to buy it now because $3,000 is the price that you originally agreed upon in your head. Now, same thing for this case. Remember when Megan came out and said that Tory was the one that shot her, a lot of things went down. He got accused. People took away opportunities. He was shunned. People stopped listening to his music. So that piece of information, people ran with it. So it's not that they don't hear new information. It's just it's hard for our brains to say, is there more after this? Because that first piece is so pivotal in how we make our decision. And the other side is hindsight bias. This is where all the chit chat on the internet comes in because people think they know everything because they're calling it after the fact. What could have happened? What should have happened? What did happen? It's easy to say that because you're not in the moment. You're the Monday morning quarterback, right? You're the one calling the plays after you know what's already occurred. So when you see the court and trial, you want to make decisions like you're a detective or a lawyer. It's only because you have more available information, but it's not really truly what the outcome could have been if you weren't really there when it occurred. So these are reasons why our judgment as a whole could have skewed how we perceive this case. Now, a lot of arguments are saying that her stories are being inconsistent, and this is making more reasons for people to not believe her and think maybe Tory's innocent. And like I said, it's not about who's right or wrong, but let's look at the concept. So this is more so memory. There's one reason why eyewitness testimony is being thrown out more and more in the courtroom because our memories aren't reliable. Most people think our memories are just like a camcorder or some kind of video phone, and we can just see it and recall it and play it back over and over. But no, memory is the recollection of the thought coming back over and over. And these neurons, which are brain cells that send the signals to remember, they're being put together in patterns over and over again. And it can be fragmented, meaning it may not come back the same way. So you might add more to the story. You might lose some parts of the story. So it's not necessarily her fault that she's having holes in her story. She may be lying, true, but it may be the fact that she's trying to recall it. And if she's been injured, that's pretty traumatic in itself. So when we talk about trauma or PTSD, our brain wires this event to the memory. So when it comes up, it brings more emotional response. And that's from the amygdala, your more reptilian brain that gives you the fight or flight response. So maybe she can't recall it because it was never encoded that well in the first place. So this is from that standpoint. So like I said, I don't know what the outcome of this case is, but it's pretty interesting because it's two people, Meg and Tory, but a lot's going on in the men. And even her boyfriend, Partisan Fontaine, is being brought up because they brought up her sexual history and they think that's messed up. And they think he should be the one to just say, hey, support her. But what about his feelings? But that segues to another topic of men's mental health. So we're going to talk about that in another video. So check that out here about how men's mental health can be affected and some remnants of this case in the DJ Twitch and other aspects, how men can be affected by negative media. Thanks for tuning in as always, guys, and get your mind right.